So I think of fatherhood, the first thing that comes to mind is being a dope dad. My father was present my entire life. Like literally, I never went to bed or woke up wondering where my dad was at for 18 years. So I knew that food was gonna be served, lessons were gonna be handed out. So when I think about the reading capability, you can't be a great speaker if you're not a great reader. And he gave me that love for reading. I definitely fell back on those lessons as became the father I am today. I'm from a community of 55,000 people, one project. I could recall maybe 7 dads, and there was easily 100 of us, 150 of us running outside. So I got to share my dad. So he would come up with like these cool little, we had this huge sandbox in the back of my building. So he would come up with like these maps and he would like bury stuff, and it was like our treasure hunt. And when I think of what he did for me there, I do that for my son's friends now. I knew that I didn't want to wait till I was in my 40s or 50s to have kids. I wanted to get them early so I could be, outside scraping my knee with them. I was married for the first 2 years of my son's life. However, we agreed to separate amicably and made that decision. So I was a single father for about 12 to 13 years. I thought I was doing well because finances were well, but I was surrounding myself with distractions. I was drinking heavily. I was abusing myself, just promiscuous, partying nonstop. That doesn't really bode well, especially because when the noise stops, you're left with your thoughts, you're left with your guilt, you're left with your conscience. When you take all the overwhelming things that you're going through and you're trying to find time for yourself, a lot of times I was happiest when I was with the children. And when you think about placing all of your joy on your children, that's putting an unfair burden on them. When you place all your joy on your mate, that's placing an unfair burden on them. Even in my poetry, it was unfair for poetry to become the place where I was seeking therapy because all I'm gonna get is applause and pity. I'm a big proponent of therapy. I'm a mental health advocate. I wrestle with PTSD myself. I am a newlywed. I just got married. We blended our families about 2 years ago. So now I got 1 son and 3 daughters. 2 biological, 2 I inherited, and I want them to see the best versions of me. The transition to being a husband and taking on my bonus children was actually one of the easiest transitions I've made, especially because love isn't something that contracts, it only gets bigger. It was really cool because the kids, we didn't want to force the relationship between them. So we let it happen organically, and they all have their own individual relationship. And I just do my best to help foster it. I just believe exposure helps. So we could do everything from laser tag to climbing in a creek. Like there's all these new ideas for us to support each other. And I think that's what's important, showing the kids, no matter which kid it is, that your support is there and it's unwavering. I think always being mindful that your presence as a man can be overwhelming. So whether it be me or my son, he's a young man, there was a house of 3 girls before. Now you're coming into boys going through puberty. So we got to make sure we give each other our space. It's interesting. When I think about poetry and where the part is played in my life, I don't journal traditionally, but I do a period piece every year. I realized I used to always write about like the mud. I had to let you know that I'm from the Bronx. I had to let you know that I was divorced. I had to let you know that my sister passed away. There was all of these pains and hurts that were obviously still prevalent and premier in my life. And I'm talking with one of my brothers and he's like, you're in the best place I've ever seen anybody. Like you have a clear road to success, and it's always propelled by the love and everything that you do regularly. So it's not like it's fake. And I told him, I said, See, you don't understand that just poetry is a self-portrait. Moment, aha, that was the poem. So the poem is easy. If poetry is a self-portrait, this is the first time I've ever taken a selfie. It's healthy. Got my lighting just right. It's reflected by my wife. I did it for myself, but I needed her to help me. This year, I managed to abstain from alcohol and all of the devils that held me. You want to talk about leveling up? Tend to your mental health. See, it's your self-worth that will make you wealthy. When I think of fatherhood, the first word that comes to mind is legacy. You get to choose what that legacy looks like. It's all on you. The kid will do nothing but love you. The kid is the biggest reflection of you that there ever is, more than a mirror, because children have never failed to do what you said, but they always succeed at mirroring who you are. So you don't have to be a father to be a man. You damn sure have to be a man to be a dad. So I think of fatherhood, the first thing that comes to mind is being a dope dad.